Greetings. So that's our 4-pass reading, and I'm going to just apply it here to a chapter in one of the texts that I used for another class. This is called Practical Approaches to Applied Research and Program Evaluation. So I'm showing you the table of contents here. We're seeing chapter 1, and I'll just add this textbook. It's really kind of a research design and program evaluation textbook that I would use in like a basic research class for clinical mental health counselors or master's students. So part 1, embarking on inquiry. So we're talking about inquiry. Chapter 1, where science meets practice. So where science meets clinical practice. I'm not going to read the subheadings, but we would if we were planning on reading that chapter. Chapter 2, methodological concepts. So we're seeing here kind of theory, concept, construct, and variables, populations and samples, data collection protocols, interventions, right? It gives us a basic idea of what's going to be covered in that chapter. Chapter 3, measurement and statistical concepts. Levels of variables, descriptive statistics, inferential statistics. Okay, we know what that chapter is about. It's statistics. Chapter 4, strategies for program development, scientific inquiry, and program evaluation. Okay, we know what this chapter is going to be about. And we're kind of seeing 2 little sections in this chapter. 1, developing interventions and programs, and 2, a tale of 2 sciences and program evaluation, the scientific method as a fundamental research process. So I made this larger, should have read this earlier. Chapter 4, we're going to zoom in on, and we're going to zoom in on this piece here, this scientific method as a fundamental research process. And we're going to focus on these different steps of the scientific method. So this figure is from the Biomedical lens text that I just showed earlier. This is our little section on the scientific method as a fundamental process in research. And here's where I want to share a little bit of what research means to me, and I want to share really the way in which research is truly conducted in an air of contemplation, inquiry, and humility. A lot of my students, when they come into my research classes, will begin with a discussion of, what does research mean to you? And a lot of times they will say, oh, researchers are biased, they're only focused on their view, and they're trying to prove that that's right. And my experience as a researcher is that that is not the case. What we tend to do in research is we make observations about the world, as all people do. And then we're curious individuals, right? We're naturally curious. We want to kind of make meaning of that. So we might start to ask questions. Gee, I observe this thing. I wonder if this thing happens because of this, right? So we get curious. And then we go to the literature and we see, has anyone else asked this question? Has anyone else observed this, right? Has this already been asked? What's been explored around this area, if it has? And then we develop our own hypothesis, right? Based on what I observed and what has already been done in the literature, I wonder if this is what's going on. And then we develop a way that we might test that hypothesis. Okay, so if I think this is what's going on, here's how we could test that. So then we conduct a study, we get our data, we get our results, we analyze the results, and we draw conclusions, okay? I had this question, here's how I thought I could test it, so here's what I did, here are the results that I got. What do I make of those? Do they support my hypothesis or not? Usually there's another step in here. We really then kind of cross-check our conclusions in the literature. Has anyone else seen anything like this? What did other people think about this? Oftentimes we communicate with other researchers, we'll present our findings at conferences, we'll ask other experts in the field, do you agree with my conclusion of this? What do you think? We might reach out to people outside of our field to get other perspectives. And when we kind of come at a conclusion, we'll either say that our results confirm our hypothesis or they don't. And this is where, again, we communicate our results and then we go to publish them. And when we go to publish our results, we're not saying this is the end-all be-all. We're just saying, this is the question I had. Here's how I tested it. There might be other ways to test it. Here's what I did. Here's what I found. And here's what I make of that based on what is known right now. We understand that science, we're constantly advancing. We're constantly increasing what we consider to be known. I say that in quotations. So we often assume that 50 years from now, there might be more known and my conclusions might be totally off. But here's kind of what I'm concluding. So we really offer that with an element of humility. And then, either way, if our results do confirm our hypotheses, usually then that will bring us to the next step that is needed to continue advancing the field. And if they don't, either way, we kind of usually go back. If we don't, then we might think like, oh, gee, well, this wasn't what I was expecting. What does this mean? And okay, here's what I think. How could I test that, right? And so then we go back in and start making more observations. Again, and here I'm just kind of giving some additional, kind of pulling out text from the textbook on these different steps. You